The Colonial Athletic Association features teams from all over the East Coast. But more importantly, it features perhaps the widest variety of stadiums in any FCS conference. So with that being said, here are the Colonial Athletic Association football stadiums. Alfond Stadium, Maine Black Bears. It's Maine's largest stadium if you can believe it. I suppose given that the state has Canadian weather, perhaps they're more interested in indoor sports, which would explain why the arena next door is a little more impressive. Anyway, I didn't mean to humiliate Alfond Stadium, it's just very simple. It features just the bare necessities. Okay, I didn't come up with that, it's the name of the team store. If I had to point out one aspect that stands out, the design of the press boxes complements the stadium quite nicely. Tom and Mary Casey Stadium, Albany Great Danes. This is a world apart from the simplicity of the last one. Clearly the Great Danes have taken inspiration from the actual Danes, who prefer a cutting-edge modern design over an old-fashioned one. Although Great Danes are actually German. Anyway, it's the newest stadium in the conference, having been built less than 10 years ago, and it's looking fantastic. I love the metallic cladding, that big tower, the hits of purple and yellow throughout, and one more traditional aspect that's always a welcome addition is the grass berm. Although they've managed to make that look modern as well. Delaware Stadium, Delaware Fightin' Blue Hens. After a renovation a couple of years ago, it's looking pretty impressive. Not just the fact that there's seating on all sides, which is actually pretty rare in the FCS, but thousands of chair-back seats were added to the main stand. They didn't bother with the visitors stand. That's still made up entirely of benches. You don't want to be too hospitable to the visiting fans. The thumbtacks are a bit over the top though. E. Claiborne Robins Stadium, Richmond Spiders. Ah, finally! We were 3 stadiums into a college football video without seeing any bricks. The facades of the stadium match the Gothic architecture of the campus. This side even looks like a brick castle with arrow slits. On the inside it keeps to that old school theme, except for those rather modern looking suites atop the west stand. And the video board behind the north end zone, it looks like it's about to be absorbed into the forest. And also the track is blue and red rather than the typical red. Okay, it's not that old school. Interestingly, the team's old off-campus stadium is still being used, but by a soccer team, the Richmond Kickers. Johnny Unitas Stadium, Towson Tigers. When you look at this stadium, something jumps out at you immediately. Rather than the tried and true grass berm, the Tigers have instead opted for what appears to be a scorched earth berm, or maybe a charcoal berm. I don't know what the deal is, to be honest. I guess it's to match the team's colours. Another aspect that is slightly unconventional is the ultra-modern field house in the southwestern corner, which looks pretty cool, to be honest. Other than that, it's a fairly straightforward stadium. Kenneth P. Lavalle Stadium, Stony Brook Seawolves. With its wraparound lower seating bowl as well as the hill along one of the sides and the trees, it reminds me of a couple of rugby stadiums in Australia, particularly this one. And just like Leichhardt Oval, it's pretty close to the ocean. I guess the main difference is instead of serving beer, I'd assume they serve Long Island iced tea here. Oh, I forgot to mention it's on Long Island. Anyway, it seems like a solid venue. It's always a plus to have a 360-degree concourse. From an island that's legally a peninsula to one that's just as much of an island as Germany is. Meade Stadium, Rhode Island Rams. It's comfortably the smallest stadium in the conference, but it's still a pretty interesting venue, particularly the fact that one stand is attached to the basketball arena. But from some angles you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell, it just looks like an especially built up grandstand. On the other side it's the exact opposite, a big blue wall of basic bleachers. From Rhode Island to Rhodes Stadium. I'm sorry, I don't normally do segues, but they're just making it too easy. It's home to Elon Phoenix, which as crazy as it sounds would have actually been a better name for Elon Musk's youngest kid. What's he called again? Yeah, I knew it was something ridiculous. When your name could easily be mistaken for a model number of a printer, that's a bad sign. Anyway, Rhodes Stadium, much like the campus as a whole, is quite easy on the eye. As I alluded to in the intro, this conference really shows off all the varieties of college football stadiums. This is what I would call, the Earthen Bowl. But it's not a typical earthen bowl. What really sets it apart is the brick wall that surrounds the field, which is a nice touch. Villanova Stadium, Villanova Wildcats. Or perhaps it's Villanova if it's Spanish. Nah, probably not. At nearly 100 years old, it's the oldest stadium in the conference, but perhaps the most basic. So much so that the Finneran Pavilion in the backdrop sort of steals the show. It's quite an interesting looking building. Anyway, I will say that the West End Zone facility does look pretty cool. That was a recent addition. And at least the stands aren't those temporary looking ones. Wildcat Stadium, New Hampshire Wildcats. 2 teams called the Wildcats? One of you could have been the domesticated cats instead, but then again that could have led to some derogatory nicknames. Quite a few years ago now, the stadium was transformed from this to this. The running track remained unfortunately, but the visitor stand became this stunning main stand, equipped with concessions, suites, all that good stuff. And the main stand became, well, not much has changed over there. The stadium also gained a rather nice video board. Walter J. Zable Stadium, William and Mary Tribe. I don't mean to keep poking fun at the team names, but the William and Mary Tribe definitely does sound like the name of a ritualistic cult. But few cults have a stadium as good as this. Not even Oprah's book club, although it's not far off. It's a pretty aesthetically pleasing venue with the plentiful brickwork and the slate roofs. The Western Grandstand is probably the most impressive we've seen so far. It's a double-decker, but the top deck is split level. You don't see that too often. The downside is that there is of course a track, but they do have seating placed right behind each end zone, which partially makes up for that fact. Bridgeforth Stadium, James Madison Dukes, or Dukes in American. We end with what is the largest stadium in the conference. It was built in the 70s, but it was a renovation 10 years ago where it was transformed into the stunning modern venue that it is today. I say renovation, but most of the stadium was rebuilt, including the huge steep double-tiered western stand, which not only looks incredible, but allows the spectators to be right on top of the action. It also includes 15 luxury suites, in case you happen to be well endowed. No, that's something else. Well-to-do, I guess I meant to say. Anyway, I said the last stadium had the most impressive grandstand. Well, this one has it covered, I think. It probably takes the cake for the most impressive video board as well. This one's lofted a good 35-40 feet in the air. And those were the CAA Football Stadiums. Pretty impressive array of venues, I've got to say. If you enjoyed the video and you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, have a good one.